all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
There's no crying in baseball.
You talking to me?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You can't handle the truth.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello and welcome to the Old School Movie Club podcast. I'm Sean, joined with my friend and co-host Kevin Levine. Kevin, how you doing right now?
Hey, I'm pretty good. I'm dealing with this bloody nose.
Yeah,
I'm getting over it.
We were waiting to record because he was struggling with the bloody nose, but hopefully he's over that.
I hope so.
But this past week we went and watched, or we didn't go to watch. We both watched Blazing Saddles for our Old School Movie Club review. Initial reaction from seeing the movie, just initial gut reaction from seeing it.
Initial gut reaction. This film is absolutely hilarious. This is my style of comedy. Like, we saw The Big Lebowski a couple months ago, and that comedy didn't work as well for me. This works.
See, I go both ways here because I love this style of comedy because I remember growing up, and I never went and actually saw Blazing Saddles, but I do remember watching Monty Python all the time. And this is very much like Monty Python style of comedy. It's just silly, just spoofs.
It's
like,
satire. That's all
it's
it is.
satire and spoofs on like things that are
On steroids.
relevant. Yeah, and it's just, like one of the scenes, it's like, that's the moment where I was like, oh, this is a lot like Monty Python to me. And I know that Mel Brooks started doing this stuff before Monty Python. I'm not trying to say that he ripped off Monty Python or anything, but the thing that, like, they were really, really similar to me, because the first scene that said that to me is when he's going through the desert and he just passes by this orchestra. And it's like, oh, yep, this is so much like Monty Python to me. This is so familiar to me. I really did like it.
And what hooked me almost immediately was the scene at the beginning of the film when the two groups of people are singing at each other. It became like a little sing-off.
Yeah, I was watching this with my dad, and he's seen this before, and I looked over at him and I was like, is this like a musical or something? Like, what am I watching? And he's like, no, it's just a spoof.
It's just funny.
Yeah, it's just funny. And I was like, okay, well, I'm in. And talking about like the first few scenes of the movie, you kind of get like the tone and what this movie is kind of making fun of, almost. Like right off the bat, and like how culturally significant it is even to this day, just with like the race issues. And it really tackles race issues up front. It doesn't try to shy away from any of that, and it just it shouts at, like, it was like, oh, racism, you're pretty stupid. And that's like it is a silly comedy movie, but it does have this bigger theme of like, oh, racism's pretty stupid, and it's still going on today, and it's still relevant today. So I think that's like the big parallel between like when this movie came out in 1970s to today.
Yeah, and you can tell it's pretty obvious that they think racism is stupid, and I agree, because all the white people in this film who are racist are extremely stupid characters.
Yeah, and they're the bad guys.
Yeah, and they've all got stupid reasons to be racist.
Yeah, and it like the bad guy's whole plot was like, I'm going to use people's racism against them or whatever, and then through the movie, that town grows to love him, like love the new sheriff, Cleavon Little, who is the I would say the main actor here, the big,
yeah,
who's like, you see Gene Wilder and stuff. You're like, oh, he's like the main protagonist, but no, it's Cleavon Little. Cleavon Little is the main protagonist, and you kind of follow him through the story, and race, like this whole like overarching thing of race is like following him through the entire story, and it just like kind of slaps like this huge, like it slaps all the bad guys in the face, like you trying to use racism against like the townspeople, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and honestly, after having seen Blazing Saddles, and then a couple days ago, I went and saw 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is one of the films that's being thrown around for Best Picture this year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene there where they have a new police chief come in, and he's black. And so it kind of reminded me of that because all the white officers in the station are like, "Oh, I don't know about this."
Yeah, and like, this is like poking fun at like westerns and stuff, but like the bigger story was, you know, this black sheriff who, where this movie is supposed to be taking place, that would never happen. And even when in 1970, it was still very like this would be very, very unlikely for this to happen because there's still a lot of and there still is today. There was a lot of racism, and just you know, it was just kind of, you know, making light of, or not making light of it, but, you know, pointing and diffusing it almost, I would say.
I love the scene when Cleavon Little is holding himself at gunpoint.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And that's when you really see just how stupid these townfolk are, because like, oh, he's really going to do it. Let's all put our guns down.
Yeah. And it's like, that's like one of the first scenes, because going into this movie, I was worried about this because that's what I heard from my dad. Is like, there's a lot of racial stuff in this movie. So I was like thinking, oh, it's like really, really insensitive racism or something. And then when I went and saw the movie, it's like, oh, it's not insensitive at all. And even Mel Brooks, the director, went to Richard Pryor, who was a really, really big comedian at the time, and said, oh, is this all right for me to write this stuff? And Richard Pryor, you know, was with him on it and actually got a credit in the screenplay for helping him write it, because he was like, no, you're doing a really good thing here, because like it's not you saying all these things, it's the bad guys, and they're using this in a really stupid way, and it kind of like sheds light on like how stupid racism is, and like,
yeah,
you know, how prevalent it was in the 1970s even. But
more so than now, probably. But
yeah, more so than now, but we still do have problems. And I think that's like the whole, like, that if you're watching it today, that's one of the things you can like still see like a parallel, because we still do have a lot of issues, a lot less than we did in 1970, but there still is a lot of racial issues, and I think that this movie does actually pretty good with that whole, and it's even hard to talk about with like, even now, which is hard. Like, it's just hard. But
yeah.
Moving on from that, so what do you think of like all of Mel Brooks? You already said you love like, you know, you love this style of comedy and stuff. So what Mel Brooks is known for this? Like, he did Spaceballs, which is a giant like spoof on, you know, the space epics like Star Wars and
Indiana Jones.
And it was just, so what do you think of like this whole style? Because you already said you loved it, but dive more deep into this.
I mean, I love Mel Brooks. This is the comedy that works best for me, in my opinion. Because anytime, like nowadays, I go to Saturday Night Live or Trevor Noah or whoever else for political comedy or social and racial comedy, or you go to someone like Mel Brooks who's into satire and spoofing, and this is the kind of comedy that works best for me. And so, like you said, Spaceballs, that's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Blazing Saddles is up there now. I've seen Robin Hood Men in Tights, which I don't put it up on the same level as Spaceballs or Blazing Saddles, but it is pretty funny still.
Yeah, and like I said earlier in the show, this reminds me a lot of Monty Python. They have like very, very similar styles. Yeah. All the Monty Python movies had this similar style. I don't know if you've ever seen like Monty Python and Holy Grail, but if you haven't,
I have.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you haven't and you really, really like this movie, go watch Holy Grail. It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, I think Mel Brooks kind of knocked this out of the park, and this wasn't his first film directing.
No.
He had done a few before, like The Producers, but this is, I think, probably his biggest success as a director, like early in his career. He did have bigger successes, I think, later on in his career, but this was like his first real big success.
Yeah. We also can't leave out Young Frankenstein, which is another movie that we've been talking about having for this show, but haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, and Young Frankenstein, it came out a little bit before this, correct? Or was it like just after? And they came out around the same time.
I can double check that real quick. I am not sure what year Young Frankenstein came out. 1974. It's the same year.
Same year. So yeah, right around the same year. A good year for Mel Brooks.
Young Frankenstein was December of 74. Blazing Saddles was February.
Okay. So this is follow-up. Young Frankenstein was his follow-up, which is a great follow-up because that's also on our list of, movies to see. So we already know that it was critically acclaimed back then.
And it's another Mel Brooks with Gene Wilder.
Yep. There was actually, the producers also had Gene Wilder in it too. So Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder apparently have this relationship going on, like this kind of like today's Samuel Jackson and help me out.
Tarantino.
Thank you. You get those familiar actors, and Gene Wilder had a pretty small, not small role in this, but
he had a I'd say the co-protagonist.
Yeah, but it still wasn't like Gene Wilder in your face, It wasn't like
no.
And when you go into Blazing Saddles, I saw Gene Wilder on the thing. I thought he was going to have a lot bigger role in it, but it's all right. I mean, he did really, really good in the movie. He didn't really come into the movie much until half an hour in or so. Yeah, that's about right. All right, and then another thing I wanted to talk about, because this was a spoof on westerns of the time, westerns of the 60s and 70s, and probably some of the 50s too, because that was a big genre back then. And
that was the genre back then.
Yeah, that was the genre then. But now it's not so much. How well do you think the comedy spoofing on those westerns held up to you today?
I don't think it held up whatsoever, but that's only because I don't know those references.
Exactly. That's kind of what I thought too, which I think I would have liked this comedy a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
And it's still funny.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can still see that there is humor there and there are laughs to be had, but I was talking about it with my father and my grandfather the day after I watched it, and both of them love it to death, but they watched these shows. My dad was a kid growing up watching these and probably watched them with my grandfather in the living room. So they had to explain to me all of the references, and I didn't get a single one of them.
But it's a testament to how good this movie actually is, because even without knowing any of those references, it's still a really, really funny movie. And if you had known more about westerns from the 60s and 70s, you probably would have enjoyed this 1,000 times more. If you have not seen Blazing Saddles yet, maybe go back and watch some 60s and 70s westerns before you watch Blazing Saddles, because that's what it's spoofing on. But if you don't have the time to do that, and two, if you don't want to, you don't have to, and this is still a great comedy, I think.
It is, and that's why I still have Spaceballs as a preference of mine for Mel Brooks over Blazing Saddles, because I understand the jokes they're making in Spaceballs.
Everyone's seen Indiana Jones and Star Wars, so it's like
right. And I'll probably get most of the stuff for Young Frankenstein because I know it's spoofing on those old classic Universal monster movies. Mm-hmm. And even though I haven't seen some of those movies, I know who those monsters are.
Yeah, I mean everyone knows Frankenstein, Dracula, all that stuff. So
yeah. But with this, I mean, all the references went right over my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, still a great movie, but maybe because we do have some westerns on our list. So maybe when we go back and watch those westerns, we're like, oh, okay, I get that now. I understand what that joke in Blazing Saddles is about now.
Yeah, we probably will.
So moving on from that, what do you think about the overall performances? Cleavon Little, if I'm getting his name correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really, really bad with names, but Cleavon Little was the star of the movie, alongside, Mel Brooks was in this, Gene Wilder, like we said, but, a pretty unknown star to me, Cleavon Little, because I'd never seen him in anything before. At least I can't remember it. I might have seen him in something, but I can't remember seeing him in anything. And he died the year that I was born, so it's kind of hard to have any recent stuff with him.
Yeah.
What did you think about his comedic performance?
I thought his performance was great. I loved everyone in here. Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, Harvey Korman, Madeline Kahn. There wasn't a performance in there that I didn't like.
Yeah, I think everyone did really good.
I did want to highlight, though, Madeline Kahn was the only one to get nominated for an Acting Academy Award in this.
Her character was so annoying to me. It's just that whole voice and that whole shtick. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was talking to my grandfather about that, and he explained to me that she was spoofing a famous German actress of the time.
Oh, okay. See, another reference we don't get just because we're in our 20s.
But and I also really love Slim Pickens. I love his name.
That's a great name. That is a great name.
Great name.
So, final review on Blazing Saddles. You already said you loved it, but let's get your score on this thing.
My score is a 4 out of 5. Any
like final thoughts on this, like awards, kind of notes and stuff that you have on this?
So the only reason I'm taking any points away is just because there's those references that we don't understand.
Yeah, and if we did understand it, you think you'd move it to a 5 out of 5?
Probably. But as of now, there's all that stuff that I didn't understand that had to be explained to me after the fact.
Yeah, and I'm like similar with you. Like I'm gonna be similar with my score. I would go 3.5 to 4 out of 5. Not understand some of the nuances and stuff in it, but definitely has a lot more room for people who have seen all those old westerns and stuff. And it's still a great comedy. 3.5 is not a bad score, and a 4 is a great score. So I would still recommend this to anybody if they hadn't seen it.
Its other Academy Award nominations were for film editing and Best Original Song for the song that played during the title sequence. And I guess those are fine. I don't think it won any awards. But.
Yeah, it's not like usually comedies don't get too much award buzz.
Yeah, so I'm surprised to see something like this even got nominated.
Yeah. That's another testament to how good it was back then. Yeah. But, so that is it for Blazing Saddles. Kevin's final score, 4 out of 5. I'll go 3.5 out of 5 just to be the stickler. But, what movie do we got up next, Kevin?
Up next, so we are kicking off a Christmas series, and we are starting with the 1980s action classic Die Hard. Yep,
because for some reason, me and Kevin have never seen Die Hard, and I'm sitting in a room with somebody that thinks that's blasphemous, and he gave me just the weirdest look just now.
Do you want to throw Trevor on the mic real quick to have him tell us something about it?
What do you think about Die Hard, Trevor?
Die Hard is amazing. It's like the best Christmas movie other than Elf and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Have you not seen Die Hard?
We haven't seen a lot of movies, Trevor. That's the point of the show. we didn't see a lot of movies earlier in our life just so we could have this show when we got into our 20s.
I don't believe that for 1 second.
No, but I brought up, I think I brought it up at your house one time, and then your whole family looked at me like I was stealing something.
It is. It's my dad's favorite movie. My mom loves it. How have you not seen Die Hard? I don't get it.
I've never seen Die Hard. I've seen bits and pieces of Die Hard.
Isn't Die Hard set in Chicago?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I think it is, actually. Well, he comes in on an airplane. That sounds about right. He's from New York.
I know it takes place in an airport.
No, it takes place at a hotel. Yeah.
See, that's how much I don't know about Die Hard.
He starts off in an airport for the first 5 minutes.
Well, Sean, we'll be learning quite a lot about it.
Yeah. And what other movies we got on our Christmas list?
We are also going to be watching White Christmas, Christmas Vacation, and It's a Wonderful Life.
What's White Christmas? I've never even heard of this movie.
White Christmas, give me a second to pull it up.
It's a Wonderful Life, and what was the other one you said?
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, so those ones I at least know. White Christmas, I have no idea. I have no idea what this movie is supposed to be about.
So White Christmas is a musical romantic comedy from 1954.
Oh, great. What a ride.
I know, I'm thinking the same thing, but it stars Bing Crosby, so...
Hey, we
there's gonna be some
enjoyed
good singing
Casablanca
there.
a lot more than we thought we would, so...
Yeah, well, no, what worries me with White Christmas is the romantic comedy part.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Romantic comedies, I guess, can be good. Sometimes.
Yeah. But I mean, this one, it's thrown up there on a lot of lists as one of the best Christmas films of all time.
Well,
So
we'll have to see, huh?
you can see here, like on Die Hard's Wikipedia page, there's this critics rankings section that has their ranking on different lists of being the all-time best Christmas film, and there's 3 of them there that say it's the best Christmas film of all time.
What are your thoughts on that, Trevor? Die Hard's best Christmas film of all time?
Yeah, it's up there. It's not like
It just doesn't...
it's not it's not actually a Christmas movie, but it takes place around Christmas.
I understand
which
that.
makes it the best Christmas movie.
Bruce Willis is not delivering presents to all the good little boys and girls, but...
He's delivering bullets to people.
Anyways, that's what we got coming up next. We got Die Hard, and then moving into... What was the one movie that I don't know anything about?
White Christmas.
White Christmas, Christmas Vacation, and then It's a Wonderful Life. So that's what you got coming up in the next 4 weeks. After
That'll
that...
be rounding out the rest of 2017 for us.
Yeah, and after that, let us know what you want us to see for the first week of 2018. Let us know on our Twitter. And Kevin, where can they find you? The show has gone off the rails.
You can find me on my website, kevwatchedafilm.com. All of my social links are connected there as well.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at OldSkoolMovieSK. All right, Kevin. I think that's it for us.
Go watch movies.
Go watch movies.